What's up, guys? So I don't know about you, but I am absolutely terrible with remaining consistent with posting to social media, especially when it comes to Twitter. So let's try to change that today. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be building a Twitter bot that runs on a certain schedule, and that schedule will be predetermined by us whenever we want to create a new post. So how we're going to be building this bot is with Python and specifically a library called Twithon. So let's get started. Alright, so you could just open up your favorite text editor or whatever you use to program in Python. I like to use Atom and also the command prompt. So yeah, that's what I'll be using today in this recording. So before we actually get started coding the actual bot, I like to start by creating a config file first, just so we could change the settings however we want later on in the project, and we don't have to worry about all the confusion of going through the code line by line, trying to figure out, where we put certain things. Instead, we could just change it in the one file and be good to go. All right, so I'm going to call it config.json. And there's going to be a few things that we are going to want to include in it. Some of them being our API keys. Now we're also going to want to include two main folders, which are going to be one of them is going to be for the posts that we want to post, and another one is going to be for the posts that have already been posted, just so we can keep track of what has or has not been posted in case we need to refer back to it later. So one more thing I would like to add is whenever we do end up posting a tweet, I would like to have almost like a receipt to show us when exactly certain tweets have been posted. So for that, we'll include one more thing in our config file, which is going to be the actual file name of those receipts. So I'll further explain what these app key, secret, token, what those are. So in order to get these tokens, you're going to need to create a Twitter developer account. And once you create a Twitter developer account, then you could create an app. I'll show you what the site looks like here. I made a video about it a little while ago, but so far I have two apps. This one I just created specifically for why not. And once you have this app, you could go to details, and then under keys and tokens, you'll have four values. One of them is going to be an app key and an app secret, and then you'll also have to generate an OAuth token and OAuth token secret, and then you could just fill them in here. And then for posted folder and post folder, you can name them whatever is going to be most useful for you for how your file system is going to be set up. So I'm just going to call mine posted for the posted folder and posts for the post folder. And I'm going to fill in these four off camera, just because these tokens you're going to want to keep secret, otherwise people will be able to gain access to your Twitter account. Alright, so now we're going to create the main class that's going to be running essentially all of our code, and then we're going to create two subclasses, and each one of those subclasses, one of them is going to be in charge of actually connecting to Twitter's API, and the other one is going to be handling actually moving around the posts from like the posted folder to the post folder to the posted folder, and also like gathering the posts that need to go out. So we could actually just manually create those two folders now. So we have the posted folder, and we also want to create the post folder. So now we'll have these two, and within them we will have subfolders. So for instance, we'll say post 1, and then within post 1 we're going to want we could just call this tweet.json, and this will essentially have like what the actual tweet is, whether or not we're including an image or a video, and also the post date, so what date we want to actually post. And let's say that we were to have an image in our tweet, then we'll also want another file once again under that post, so we could say image.jpg for whatever our image is and include that there. That's how the file system is going to work. And also once a post gets posted, so let's say that eventually we do post 1, what our code is going to do is it's going to simply move that to the posted folder, and it's going to add in one more file, in our case called receipt.txt, which will have the date that it was posted. So that's a general gist of how our posts are actually going to be set up for us when we want to create a new post. Now let's start with actually creating the actual main code and the classes that will execute all that. So we could start with our main class. We'll just call Twitter scheduler. And now within this, we are going to create a class called scheduler, and yeah, we'll fill in all of that as we go. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to want to do within this scheduler class is actually read in the config file. So we know that our config file is going to be in a JSON format, so we're going to want to import JSON. It should already be installed under Python. I think it's a default class, but in case it's not, you might want to type in pip install. I'll just show you what that would look like. So in my case, it would be pi-m and then pip install JSON if it's not installed. Other formats might just be pip install JSON, however your machine is set up, just to install that package, so that way you can actually read JSON files. So we're gonna say that config is gonna equal self.read config file, and then set our config file. So we're gonna create this class called read config file. And now to read a JSON file into a Python dictionary, it's actually pretty simple with Python. So what this is doing is we're opening up the config file, which is config.json, and then we're setting it to the variable f, and then we are going to return json.load of f, which pretty much just means that we're using this package JSON, which is going to read the config.json file, and it's going to convert this into a Python dictionary. So this is going to be the keys, or these are going to be the keys for the dictionary, and the values are going to be all the values here. So now we know that config is going to be a Python dictionary, and we can actually access those variables just like a Python dictionary. So let's start reading in those variables here. Alright, so we've read in our variables from the config dictionary, and we could just show that here. So if we print out app key, and we were to run this. Alright, so if we were to run this, first I need to go into... Alright, so let's see. We should get the value, so we're printing out app key, and app key in our config file is just ABC. So if we run this, we do get ABC as our output. Alright, so let's also create other class variables for the other settings in our config.json file. Alright, so we just read in the rest of our settings from our config file, so our posted folder, our post folder, and our receipt file name. So yeah, we read those in here, and what we're doing with path on these two, we're using this library called Pathlib. What Pathlib pretty much does is it makes like normal paths, so like posted and posts, which reference these two files. It converts it, depending on your operating system, to either a Windows format or a Unix style format. The difference between the two is you might notice if you're on Windows how some files might use some format similar to this, where they have backslashes between files and folders. On Unix, like Linux or Mac, they're going to use a /. So it's a slight difference, but it causes big problems when it comes to actually coding it. So that's why we use Path, which helps to reduce that. It just prevents headaches pretty much. Hope you guys enjoyed the video and you learned something. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut this part short, so stay tuned for the next part of this tutorial.